Peace and blessings be upon everyone. Khairul Solihin here, and this is episode 007 of the Caliph Podcast. And I'm here today with this amazing gentleman right here. He invited me to his office, beautiful office. And why don't you introduce yourself to those who don't know you? What do you do and who are you?
Okay, so my name is Abdul Rahman. I'm a practicing lawyer. I run my own firm by the name of Abdul Rahman Law Corporation. We are, I would say, a boutique firm. We specialize in a few areas, but most of our areas of practice actually focus on community and what the community requires. Our firm also has a keen interest in Islamic finance and technology-related laws. So a lot of our newer practice areas center around that. But generally, we are, I would say, a very settled firm that is catered towards the customer, and we are very client-centric.
Oh, okay. So what's the meaning of boutique firm? Is there a difference?
In Singapore, generally, there are very large firms, and then there are a lot of perhaps we call one-man practices or two-man practices. So I would say a boutique firm is something that is slightly between a small firm and a medium-sized firm.
Okay.
And why we say we're boutique is we choose to maintain a certain size. We don't want to be too big, because once you hit too big a size, it's difficult to manage and also to keep that personal touch with your clients.
I see. The quality of the
involvement,
yes,
the attention, is different.
Okay, so your firm also touches on what you said just now, Islamic finance and stuff like that.
Yep.
How does it?
How does it gel?
Yeah.
Well,
because before that, I know you do a lot of domestic cases and stuff like that, right?
So
along the years,
I would say family matters, whether it's related to divorce or estate planning or inheritance issues. These are bread and butter issues. These are issues that we have always handled and we take a keen interest on, and we have developed a very systematic approach on throughout the years. It's definitely our core area, and we have been doing it for quite some time. But apart from that, as a matter of interest, we also do a fair bit of Islamic finance related work. We do what we call this project financing. We do, I would say, loan financing through Shariah compliant means for our clients and for their customers. So to me, it's a good area. It is a sunrise area. Not a lot of people do work in that field.
Yep.
And I think it's important for me as a Muslim, especially, and being a lawyer, I should develop my skills in that area. I mean, just to share some background. Sure. Okay, I think many years ago, I attended a conference by what is called the International Bar Association, right? And this International Bar Association is a huge multinational association where lawyers from many different countries are members. So at one of these particular association meetings, it's usually a conference, they have talks, they have many distinguished speakers who will come and share knowledge. So it's always good to attend such talks. And for me, I make it a practice to go. And for that particular one that I went, there was a panel on Shariah law and Islamic finance. And the lawyers who were talking about it, they were from if I remember correctly, some were from the UK, some were from Europe, and they were all from really huge top tier firms. And when they were sharing their experiences, they were talking about very huge ticket item things like issuance of sukuks and whatnot. And when they discussed it, after sharing their experiences for quite some time, all of them said that none of them have any professional qualification in the field of Islamic finance. So I felt that it was a bit odd. Yes, of course, as lawyers, we have enough practice, we know how to draft a contract. And you give us general principles in any area, we will be able to create the contract following your general principles. So even a lawyer who does not have any formal training in Islamic finance should be able to craft out a proper document if the customer or client explains to him what needs to be done. But I just felt that it's important for me, given that they are doing it, why me, a Muslim, not do it for myself? On top of that, when you talk about Islamic finance, when you talk about these kind of issues, generally when you go for conferences, it's all about sovereign funds, sukuks, huge ticket items, right? And I'm not talking about big ticket. I'm saying huge ticket items. These are all projects which are in the millions, which are some are sovereign, some are state level. So all the more, I think it makes sense for them to go to huge top tier firms.
Right.
I am a boutique small practice.
Yeah.
So
See the opportunity there.
not only did I see the opportunity, but to me, the opportunity for me was to bring Islamic finance to the masses, to the community. People who run businesses and want to incorporate Shariah compliant issues in their constitution of their company. People who want to adopt a Shariah compliant method of lending money, borrowing money. These are people who may be running everyday businesses who won't have access financially to top tier firms to pay so much money. And to me, they are already waiting market for me to assist in, and I would want to do that segment, create that niche, create that segment.
So how do you get yourself like certified in terms of being
Okay, so there are a lot of certifications. Some are certificate level, which I've taken quite a few actually. But
since that conference?
Since that conference, yes. So there are quite a few certificate level qualifications that you can do. Some online, some you will need to go to a particular location to take the exam, which I've done. But at the moment, I'm also taking my master's in Islamic Finance.
Oh wow!
So in my last semester. I got 2 more modules to clear. I hope to finish that quickly.
How do you balance all of that?
Oh, it's a feat in itself, but alhamdulillah, with God's help, everything is possible.
Okay, so I just want to ask a bit about your individual background, your personal background.
Okay.
What were you doing before when you're growing up? Do you intend to be a lawyer when you are young and stuff like that? Like, how does it turn out to you?
Well, when you're young, you don't really know what you want to do, right? And I would say this path that God has given me, in part, is sheer serendipity, which means I would say He chose a lot of what I do today. For example, when I was when you were in secondary school, and then what's your next big goal in life? For me at that point in time was to just make sure I made it to a junior college, right? And I still remember back in my time, which was a long time ago, before you take your O-levels, you take your prelims, and you can get admitted into a junior college based on your prelim results. So I had at that point in time always thought that I would end up being like a science stream student doing physics and that kind of thing. But then to make sure I got into the junior college of my choice, because there would be some advantage, right, to get in early, I was offered a place in the art stream. So I took it up. And I did things like economics and also literature. And I enjoyed it so much in the first 3 months that I decided I wanted to continue in that stream, and I continued for the next 2 years. And I took my A-levels on art stream subjects, except for maths, but apart from that it was arts. So naturally, what could I apply for, right? And amongst the things that was always an option going into university after A-levels would be a study of law. So that was top on my list. I thought it was a good opportunity to have a good job, have a respectable position in life, and do good. So I tried it out, and alhamdulillah, I got in. Yep.
So how's the journey from being a student to where you are right now? How was it like?
Journey.
For those who don't know, like I've never met any lawyer. To be honest, I've never met any lawyer. I have one lecturer who was a lawyer, I remember, but I've never met anyone. So I just want to know, how is it like the journey to be where you are right now?
Okay, I guess the most difficult part about this journey starts with going to university, right? Now, after in my time, 2.5 years of being in national service, going back to study is quite a tall order.
Lose the momentum.
Yeah, you lose the momentum, and I mean, okay, when I was in NS, I did a diploma in a year in accounting and all that, but just to keep fresh, to keep my mind alive. But once you hit university again, it's a real rush, it's a real challenge, and getting back in tune towards studying was, of course, the first thing that I had to deal with. But thankfully, with Allah's help, everything went smoothly. Graduated, and at the end of the 4 years of study, because law is a direct and honors program, so you have to do 4 years. We have to go for what is called our postgraduate law course, right? and that entails two parts for local graduates. There's a 6-month course, and then there's a 6-month. In my time, it was called pupillage. Now this is called training contract.
Okay.
So that was the next big thing after law school. Now, truthfully, I can assure you, the bar exams were one of the most difficult exams in my life.
Wow. Okay.
At that point in time, I can safely say until today,
Until today,
there was a one and only set of exams that I went in and I came out not knowing whether I was going to pass.
Wow.
It was that difficult, and this is after a whole lifetime of exams. So, but Alhamdulillah, thankfully I traversed it without any issues.
Really? Wow.
Thankfully,
Just once.
Alhamdulillah, just once. But after that, it was going to the workplace,
Yeah.
and
That's where the real.
yeah, so that was a challenge. It was a real heavy challenge. For me, I knew early on that I didn't want to go to a huge or large firm. I didn't want to be a digit. I didn't want to be a number in, say, in a 250-man law firm.
Okay.
You are just one out of 250. Nobody's going to know you. Nobody's going to notice you. I didn't see any.
How do you know? How do you know that you are you asked around?
Of course. So, for example, during law school itself, most of my peers. Back in that time, big was beautiful. It's either you work in a large firm or you're nobody.
True.
Right? That was a general mentality. But to me, I went around. I did try internships at large firms, and I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't think like that was a life for me. So I knew early on that I didn't want to do that. I wanted to go into a situation where, to me, client interaction is important.
Correct.
Human interaction is important,
True.
people interaction is important.
Where you can get it in the smaller firms.
Yep, so I knew I wanted to be in a small firm, and I had the opportunity to intern a few times at this particular firm, which I enjoyed. And so I applied for my pupillage there, and I was accepted, and I went through it. But of course, anyone who goes through their first job, right, there will be its own share of challenges.
Of course.
Understanding how to deal with your boss, understanding the dynamics of workplace, and I'm not being extreme in any way or anything like that, but I'm just like, I like to do my prayers when it's time, or when I want to do my prayers, for example. So these are the kind of things that may be an issue for you when you it's the first time for you to enter the workforce. You may not have the liberty of just doing your prayers whenever you want, or
so that's your principle and your
to me,
values that you keep.
Yeah, I need to have my independence. I need to have my time.
It's
I need
not
to be
easy,
able,
to get that.
exactly. So it was a challenge, but going through that whole pupillage for 6 months, it was a very, very good learning experience. I had an amazing boss who was a very, very smart man, and he was the kind of person who could read 20 reams of files and he can still tell me which page what item is on. So it was a very good experience. But then the nature of work at that point in time was not the type of work that I wanted to do. Right? My boss at that point in time had clients who were banks. They did things like syndicated loans. It was my boss even had clients who were governments of other countries. So it was huge, very high level work. Of course, very lucrative financially. But I was there earning a stipend for the 6 months, and I realized that it wasn't the kind of thing that I wanted to do. So for me, I decided after I got retained. Usually, if the firm likes you, at the end of your pupillage, they keep you. If they don't like you, they tell you to go and look a job. So I got retained, alhamdulillah. I was happy for that. But I stayed for about 2 months before I decided that I needed a workplace which would give me access to what I wanted to do. And I wanted to do work where I could meet new people every day. I could understand people's problems, and I could figure out how to solve them. So after that, I moved on, and I moved to another firm. Now, this is just about halfway through the journey, so bear with me. You asked the question, so you can't pull it back now.
I'm enjoying it.
Okay. So when I left that firm, at that point in time, I think I was still maybe, I can't remember my age, I think 25, 26. And I was young enough. My only liability was my car, which at that point in time was $650 a month. And of course, the money that I needed to eat for myself, right? I was still living with my parents, so I thought, okay, this is the best time to take a risk. So, of course, in the practice of law, you can't open your own firm yet. You need to have at least 3 years of experience before you can actually go and set up your own firm.
So you always wanted, you know that you always wanted to set up your own firm.
I knew that eventually I would need to be my own boss to achieve the flexibility and goals in life that I wanted. Okay. So, but I couldn't do it immediately. But what I had was there was a particular firm which gave me the opportunity to have flexibility in handling my own matters, right? Okay. Which means I get to pick and choose the clients, I get to interview the clients, I get to decide how the matter is run. The firm had many senior lawyers who could guide me. It was a very good arrangement. But of course, the biggest risk in the arrangement was if I didn't have any cut files, no clients, no money, right? It was basically a situation where we say you eat what you hunt. If you don't bring anything back, then that's too bad for you. So it was a challenge, and many people said to me, you know, you got to be prepared. 6 months of not having an income and so on and so forth.
So before that firm, you have a stable pay, but when you reached when you had this firm,
correct.
Pay, you said just now. Okay,
so no money, no
basic, no nothing.
Nothing. Right. So it was just going out hunting for your own work.
Okay.
So I stayed in that particular firm for a good, I think 2 years, 8 months or 3 years, and it was a very good learning experience because one, without working hard to look for clients, I didn't have money. Two, it's not just about looking for clients, it's about taking care of your existing clients to make sure they are happy with your work and you can continue to get money. Three, I learned how to not waste time doing unnecessary work. All I had was myself and my office, and that's it. So it was a big challenge, but like I said, it was one of the best challenges in life. So another big thing that I experienced while I was at that firm was I could look for clients, I could look for cases, but knowing how to do it is another thing, right? Knowing the intricacies of going to court, gaining the experience is a totally different thing. So I had an arrangement with another lawyer in the firm. He was kind enough to tell me that he would guide me, teach me through the whole ropes, the process, everything, no holds barred. He would make sure that I become a very good professional lawyer, but at a price. And that price was I would have to do his work for free. Now, this foundation which I went through to build my skills, my capabilities today is something that many people don't understand or appreciate. And I always, whenever I school my young junior lawyers, I tell them, all of you are having it easy. I'm paying you market rate salary today. You have access to all information. You are learning on my tab, and still all of you can't perform sometimes. You know, everybody will have their good days and bad days. But in my time when I was learning the ropes, I had no choice. Like I said, no salary, no money, no files, nothing's gonna happen.
You took the offer from that guy?
I took the offer. I had to learn. So I helped him. I did all of his work for free, but in exchange, he taught me how to do all of my work. So I don't know how to explain this to you, but every single experience, every single thing I learned was extremely valuable for me because of the amount of time that I had to invest. I mean, at that point in time, of course, I was single, life was good, so easy, not a lot of liabilities. I could go home at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., pull overnighters, no issues, just to clear all the work. But of course, I can't keep doing that forever. But I would say when you are not receiving a pay, when you're not having a salary, and you really have to work and hunt for whatever it is that you're going to make, and you really have to give your soul in exchange for that knowledge, you value it all the more. And sometimes young junior guys, I think in whatever field, they may not appreciate that as much as someone who has to go through a tough route to get it. So thankfully that was good. I lasted about 3 years in that firm, and then
so it was a very tough 6 months?
No, this was after the 6 months.
After the 6 months?
After the 6 months. So the 6 months is to become a lawyer.
Right.
After the 6 months to become a lawyer, I stayed on in that firm for about 2 months before moving on to this new practice where I had the opportunity to do the kind of work that I wanted to do. And I stayed there for about 3 years before then moving on to establish a partnership with about 2 other friends. So that was, I would say, the next stage in my career where it was very interesting. all of us grouped together, we put in whatever money we could, took up the rental of a particular premise and bought everything, computer, server, chairs, table, set everything up ourselves, clean the office
Whose
ourselves.
idea was that?
Um,
Among of the
I
three?
would say out of the three of us, there were three partners, I was closest to one other partner, and he was a fantastic partner. He was really a very, very, very good friend, and he's still a good friend till today. He is what I would describe as one of the best partners to have in life, because when I said to him, bro, I think it's time, we need to set up our own firm, and then he said, okay, how much money do you think we need to do this? I said, I think I'm going to put about 20,000 into it. That's all I had at that point in time. He said, okay. He went downstairs, he drew 10K, he gave me, and then he said, tomorrow I'll give you another 10K. That's it. He didn't question, he didn't ask. The trust between us was amazing, and that is something I value till today. So we opened that partnership, and it was a very good run. The partnership went on for about 2 years before we grew substantially. There was a branch office. Things went very well for the firm in its entirety. But for me personally, it reached a stage where it was growing in a tangent that I was uncomfortable with.
Okay.
Primarily because between the partners we agreed that we all had different roles, and the role that I was playing was more of the administration, looking after the finances, the accounts. It was challenging. So as the firm wanted to continue to grow, and I didn't believe that I could commit at that point in time. We had a mutual understanding, and I left that partnership. So this was back in 2014, if I remember correctly. I left that partnership and I went on to establish my own firm. So that was, as I remember it, in April 2014, I would say the last leg of my journey, because that's the firm that I have today. We started out with a very humble office in Teluk Kurau. It was at this place called Bright Center.
Okay.
If you ask me why I choose that office, it's totally out of town. The reason why I chose that office is because it's next to my favorite mosque, which was at Lorong K, Masjid Abdul Rahman. Right?
Okay.
So that's the mosque that growing up, me and my friends, we always used to pray there and all that. So because of that, I said I want an office near that mosque, and I took the office, took the plunge, did whatever I could. And
were you married at that point of time?
yes, married.
Wow.
Married, mortgage.
How much do you need to invest at the time, at that point of time?
Oh, I think I spent about $50,000 to get everything up and running properly. But like I said, it was a challenge.
So you're all alone at that time?
All alone. And you know, when you set up and you're all alone, for me personally, one of the biggest fears is staff salaries.
Yep.
At that point in time, I only had 5 staff. But to me, every month, they also have responsibilities.
Yeah.
They have people, they have things, they have family, they have all kind of things that they need to pay for, and I could not take that for granted. I needed to make sure that we could make enough on a monthly basis to make sure that everybody's paid and things move on and the firm moves on. And thankfully, alhamdulillah, I mean, that was 5 years ago. And from that humble small office, alhamdulillah, we have grown consistently over the years to where we are today, and I hope to grow a bit more, but
Why
not
a bit more?
just a bit more, not too much, because
Like
like
what you said,
I want to maintain that boutique size, and hopefully things continue to go well. I hope Allah continues to give me the opportunities that He does.
Okay, I want to ask you, what makes a great lawyer?
What makes a great lawyer? Well, that's a very interesting thing, and you sure you're giving me the time to speak?
Yes,
Okay.
no worries.
I can speak about this.
Of course.
Okay, so when I was very much junior, right, when I said I just came out after my bar exam, after I got called to the bar, I was a full-time lawyer. I said I moved into a firm where no salary, nothing, right? And I had to pick up the pieces, do whatever case that comes my way. Now, I remember I did a particular case, and you know, when you talk about being a lawyer as a professional, there will be the lawyers who say, oh, I'm a litigator. And litigators are people who go to court, right? There are lawyers who say, I only do corporate work, M&As, this kind of thing. Those lawyers maybe they do a lot of back end work.
Yep.
Then there are lawyers who say, I do deal breaking. I do nothing but deal break. I meet this guy, negotiate, put things together, boom, I make money. To me, what makes a great lawyer is a lawyer that can do all of those things.
Yep.
Not that you have to, not that you may want to do all of those things, but be in a position where you have all the skills to do all of those work. That, to me, makes a great lawyer. Now, I remember when I was maybe 1 or 2 years in practice, I was still very much junior, and I went to court for a particular matter. And it was a family law matter, right? It was in relation to a maintenance case. Now, it was a very difficult case, and early on I already told my client, look, the chances of winning are slim, but we'll give it a shot, right? Now, I went to court, I fought tooth and nail, I tried every single thing, but at the end of the application, I lost. I wasn't too worried, of course, because I had prepped my client in time. It was a risk he was willing to take. But at the end of the hearing, the lawyer on the other side came to me, he shook my hand, he said, good fight. We had a good fight. I said, yeah, thank you. Then he said, is this your area? Which means family law, is it your area? And I said, yeah, I do a fair bit. And he said, oh, okay, I don't do this, I'm a shipping lawyer. So that to me is a painful comment. It's like rubbing salt in a wound, because this is a man who won, although it's in a field that he doesn't even practice in. So that made me realize and remember, and it's forever etched in my memory, that if you want to be a good lawyer, you be good at whatever it is that you're doing. You can be a shipping lawyer, you can be a corporate lawyer, but when you need to descend into the field and fight, you can do it, arms blowing, no problem.
Wow, okay, so that's your definition. Right, okay. So of all your years of practice, can you share with me like your favorite case? Maybe once or two.
Favorite case?
Yeah, that has impacted your life or...
I can't say that I have a favorite case.
Okay, sure.
To me, every client is important. Every client has a story, and every client is an ending that we need to take care of. But one thing I can say for sure is sometimes you get a good pat on the back, a good thank you from a client, and that makes all the difference. And those are the cases that will never leave me. Now, I don't want to go into the specifics, of course, but I have seen many cases, some family matters, some criminal matters, where it seems that the whole world is against a particular individual. Now, if I were to just discuss recently, I would say within the last 6 months to a year, maybe, I had a client who was going through a divorce, right? And he had 2 young children, and it was a situation where it looked very, very, very bleak for him to be able to get care and control or to look after the kids, because he's a father, right? There is a presumption that at a tender age, for example, below 7 and whatnot, a child may be better taken care of the mother. But this, of course, is a presumption. We fought tooth and nail for him, and Alhamdulillah, by God's grace, the court was with us. The court allowed for him to continue to be the primary caregiver for the children. And he was extremely happy, and seeing the children happy at the outcome made it all worthwhile.
Oh, that was your favorite?
One of
many
favorite cases.
I saw in your video for your law firm that you specifically said that you enjoy as in like your main focus is for the common man, right? Can you share a bit about who is the common man and why are you focusing on the common man?
Okay, so my point of view is the common man is a man on the street, right? The average guy, the average Joe, the guy who's walking, the guy who's working, the guy who has a family, like the guy who has kids. Like you, like me, like anyone in this room, right? We are all what I would say average Joes. Now, if you think about lawyers in general, many lawyers have a very, I would say, hard shell, a very polished front. It's very difficult sometimes. Even when I was learning from other lawyers, some of my lawyers would talk to clients in a very condescending way. Some of the lawyers that I've learned from over the years would treat clients badly, which I don't understand. So, to me, I wanted to establish an environment, a firm, a practice where people will feel comfortable coming in, sitting down, talking to me, getting their problem diagnosed, and then decide, you want to appoint me, go ahead. You don't want to use me, you want to go somewhere else, also go ahead. But my promise to you is, you make appointment, you walk in my doors, I will make sure, I will tell you what your solution is. Then you make that decision. So, to me, we are a firm for the common man, for the common business, for the SME, for the man who's struggling to make sure he wants to succeed in life. And that's the kind of person that I want to help.
But for those person that you are helping, right? What if they have they don't have the money to pay you? How does that work?
Well, handling that kind of situation can come from many different angles. In Singapore, we have a lot of legal aid platforms. We have the Legal Aid Bureau, we have the Criminal Legal Aid Scheme, we have LASCO, which handles capital matters, and I think I'm on both LASCO and Legal Aid Bureau, right? So some clients come and then they say they really don't have no money, and I, just from a brief assessment, I know they would qualify for legal aid, I send them that way. We also have what is called ad hoc pro bono, and this is under PBSO, the pro bono scheme under the Law Society. And I have many a time send clients who just fall through the cracks, which means they just make enough money to fall out of the legal aid scheme, but they don't have enough to actually properly retain a lawyer. So I have sent appeals on their behalf to get help from the pro bono schemes. Now, for most of my clients, what I do to help them is we have installment payment packages. We also do cap fees. Like, I mean, if you watch TV, they always say, lawyers are paid per hour and all that. That can be very daunting, very difficult for some clients. So usually for matters that we are very comfortable with, we know how the parameters of how it works, we give them cap fees, which means fixed rates. And we also help them out by paying through installments.
Okay. How important it is for an average person to be educated on law? Is it important? Is there any must-haves things that we need to be educated?
Okay, I would say educated is not an accurate word.
Okay, sure.
To get formal education in law, I think is unnecessary, right? But as a person, you need to know what your basic rights are. On top of your basic rights, you need to know what your basic obligations are. For example, it's no use committing a crime and then going to court saying, oh, sorry, I didn't know. Because ignorance of the law is not a defense, right? Sure. So I think it's important for you as a member of society to know what the rules and regulations that the society places on you are. You need to take the time to understand how the law is going to impact your life, how it's going to change your life, what parts are important, what parts are not. You decide, because you are the one living your life. So knowledge of the law is important, not a thorough education, but knowledge of the law is definitely important.
Okay, interesting. So other than your law firm, what are the things that you are investing on in terms of, you mentioned that you're an entrepreneur also, so what are the things that you are investing on? Other than also your masters that you are
investing on, financially, I guess what you mean, right?
Yeah.
And I think you got that from probably my LinkedIn profile where I say I'm a serial entrepreneur. Well, I've always liked doing my own business, and early on, I think during NS, I ostensibly started my first business with a couple of friends where we started selling car parts.
Car parts?
Car parts, yeah. It was good money at that point in time. We imported the car parts ourselves, had a good markup, sold it to locals, and it was a very good business, driving business. And then through the years, I've done many different things. For a period of time when I was in university, I started an IT business. I would sell laptops, computers, iPads, the works to anyone who needed it, usually home delivery and so on. So that helped me through covering my university expenses. Apart from the law firm today, the law firm is a part of a group of companies. We have a training arm where it's a training company. We do courses for SMEs, we do courses for individuals on things like finance, Islamic finance, good HR practices, for example. So that's one wing where we have a training arm. We also have offshore trust services where we have a company that is a registered trust company in Labuan, and we help high net worth individuals who want to do active estate planning, who want to do collective investments, who want to have someone managing their funds overseas. So we have that as well. We have a company based in the UK that is more of a technology-related firm to help companies that want to cross into Asia. So that's another business that we have. So this is part of the ecosystem within which the law firm thrives. Apart from that, we also, I have personally invested in several fintech companies because I think that's another sunrise area. So that's where I'm at right now.
Okay, so you are Islamic finance enthusiast. Any tips on Islamic finance for those?
Well, when we talk about Islamic finance, we always get mixed reactions, right? Some people say, oh, same thing, they just rebrand the interest.
Yeah, correct.
Some people say Islamic finance is a forgotten dream, can't materialize, not relevant, this, that, and the other. And all of this to me is unfortunate because it shows a very great misunderstanding and a lack of understanding of what Islamic finance is. Now, if we were to talk about Islamic finance, to me it's very good to make reference to Sayyidina Umar, right? Sayyidina Umar was the second Caliph, right? That's relevant to your branding. Now, Sayyidina Umar was once quoted as saying, poverty, if it was a man, I would kill it. So that was his take on poverty. He wanted to kill off poverty. And I dare say at the tail end of his caliphate, he was rather successful in establishing that. How? Why was he successful in establishing that? It's because he had at that point in time established and practiced very, very good Islamic finance principles. See, things like riba or interest, okay? I don't have to expound any theories on this. All you need to do is just go on the computer and Google how countries, we're not talking about individuals, but countries have insane amount of debts because of compounding interest. You can start off with a loan of about, if I remember, there's an often quoted case of one of the African states where they started off with a debt of about 6 billion, I think. And they ended up paying off more than 34 billion because of the compounding interest. And compounding interest is something that happens for not just countries, but even on our credit card statements, on our purchases, things like buying furniture. In Singapore, nobody reads the fine print, right? Interest rates can go as high as 25 to 30%, and that's actually ridiculously crazy. So, if you were to understand Islamic finance, to me, you must understand that Islamic finance is not just a rebranding of the interest, but it's a whole set of general principles that is put in place with the particular aim of eradicating poverty. And if it were to be applied properly, to me, it would definitely eradicate poverty. Now, just look at simple things, okay? Like a share compliant finance for your home, for example. There is a particular scheme that was popular quite a few years ago that is called the Musyarakah Mutanakisah, which means it's a depreciating partnership. In such a situation, you and the bank buy a house together. So imagine you're the bank and I'm the individual, right? Now I want to buy this particular house, and this house can generate a certain amount of market yield. Say this particular house that we buy could go on rental for about 4,500, and we all know alternative to buying is rental, for example. But if I were to buy under that scheme, you are the bank, you buy about 80% of the house. I as an individual, I buy 20% of the house. So we have a co-ownership, right? Which means you own 80%, I own 20%, right? Every month, I, as the buyer, I continue to pay that $4,500 in rental. But if you think about it, $4,500 in rental, out of that 4,500, you own 80%, right?
Yeah.
And I actually own 20% of that rental, but I'm still paying it to you. With that consistent payment every month, you still earn from your share, but your share decreases because I am slowly buying out your share.
Correct.
Nowhere in this equation do you see interest or anything like that. But it is a co-ownership where we reach a situation where it's fair, where you on your books as a bank, you own part of a house. Every month your share reduces, but you are earning it through this delayed buyback. It also, Islamic finance also includes principles that protect the consumer. So things like where if it's a situation where I can't pay for this, in such a situation we are co-owners. So if I can't pay, I reach a financial difficulty, I reach a situation where I'm insolvent, does the bank suddenly levy all kinds of penalties, late fees? No, we are both co-owners. How do we solve it? We can sell the house, we can split, we can move forward. So a situation, that, to me, Islamic finance is a set of principles that could really solve social financial problems that we have.
Right. Wow, very good, very good. Especially it's ethically right.
Sound.
Correct. Yeah. So, but is there any, especially in our context in Singapore, is there any, like what you said, the co-owners of the house and stuff like that in Singapore right now?
In Singapore, for home financing, there's no solution.
The solution, right?
At the moment, there's no solution.
Yes,
many years they tried to introduce it, but then in Singapore we have several layers of complexities. Like we have CPF, how to interplay CPF monies into a Shariah compliant contract. But there are many Islamic finance enthusiasts in Singapore, and many of us are working on this to see how we can try and bring it in. But that said, in Singapore we have Shariah compliant car financing. We also have Shariah compliant deposits with more than one bank in Singapore. We have Shariah compliant fixed deposits. So options are there. The products are available.
Alright, so you have been actively volunteering for a few organizations I've seen. And why do you volunteer? And what benefits do you get from volunteering?
Benefits, huh?
Oh,
Well, firstly, I think your time is not yours. It's important for you to make sure you use your time wisely. And in the context that our time here on earth as humans is temporary, it's transient. We are all waiting for an afterlife, hopefully, right? So to me, it's important to make sure you use your time wisely and use your time to benefit others, not just yourself. So that's why I volunteer. Benefit-wise, if you do it for benefit, then don't do it.
Okay.
I think that's what I can say.
Okay. It's about something you said earlier. I think it's challenging for a lot of Muslims. Is that to find time to pray during work and stuff like that. I personally for myself also, my previous job, I think I find it hard to stick to my principles as a Muslim, especially to pray. How do you have that values in your principles in you that you don't that is important, and anything else is just secondary, even though you're in a new workplace or you wanna how do you have that?
You see, prayers is ritualistic. It is not. It is a part of the religion where God enjoins you to do it because He asks you to do it. So it's ritualistic, undoubtedly ritualistic. So many people sometimes say, no, you are religious, but you're not spiritual. You only adhere to what you must do, this, that, and the other. But for me personally, I think prayer is very important. It is something that gives you that quiet time, and because it gives you that quiet time, it gives you that presence of mind with God, and it's not just a ritualistic thing; it becomes a spiritual thing. And if that truly guides you, it all boils down to the individual, right? No one is right. Some people say, okay, never mind, it's okay. If the work is difficult, you can do things like jama. You can do, it's all up to the individual how you want to take it. I'm not saying that there's any hard and fast rules. I'm not an asatiza. I'm not ustad. I'm not going to preach religion. But for me, my principles is when I want to have the flexibility of praying. And it's not just praying, I mean, in a workplace, you want to take your wudu, you want to take off your shoes, your socks, you want to put your prayer mat. Where and how are you going to be able to have that flexibility?
Right.
So that environment, being able to establish an environment where it's easy for me to do my pillars of faith is important for me.
Has it always been the way your upbringing? Do you feel that you have these principles?
I will say,
or is it just you yourself?
I'm not trying to claim any credit or say me myself. I'm as best as the lessons that God teaches me. Right?
Wow.
But to me, I have had a very good set of parents, but they have never forced me to do anything. They have never asked for me to. My role in religion is between me and God. My parents don't ask whether I wake up for subuh or not. They never ask whether I pray maghrib or not. That's up to me. That's between me, and that's between me and God. What's important to me is understanding religion, avoiding extremities, and being comfortable with a Muslim identity. If you're not comfortable with who you are and that identity, then it's going to be difficult for you to practice it. Yeah.
Wow, very good. What's your advice for aspiring lawyers, especially for our Muslim communities?
For young lawyers, huh?
Yes.
I guess the best advice I could give from my own experiences is to be sure of what you want in life, right? Many people will take years to find out what it is that they want because they listen too much to other people.
Correct.
Right? Like I said, when I was starting out, big was beautiful. Meaning, you see, in my time, my cohort size was about 200. And even with foreign graduates, that 200 goes up to be about 400 max. Every year, that was how many lawyers came into the industry. And so the biggest firms would have the best picks of the top students and all that. So everybody wanted to be in the top firms. Today, every year, the amount of people who become lawyers, if I remember correctly, is between 800 to 1,000.
Wow.
So more than double. So
where are these people going?
So everybody needs a job. They need to find somewhere to work. So it's no longer about being big is beautiful and so on and so forth. As long as it's a good environment, people will be happy to work. So the situation is different, but it's important for you to know what you want, where you want to end up, and so on. Just I think about maybe a month ago, for example, there was a lawyer that I liked, a nice gentleman who was looking for a job. So he came to my office for an interview, and I asked about his previous jobs, right? And he was in a particular firm right now where he had only been there for about 2 months, and before that he was in another firm for about 6 months. And I said, look, you're job hopping. What do you want? I can offer you a place, I said. I can offer you the salary you're asking for. But I don't want you to leave after 2 to 3 months. I don't want to waste my time, my energy, my effort. So you need to think about what you want and where you're going to end up. And I think about just last week, he dropped me a text. He said, thank you for giving me that talk. Because I then actually spent a lot of time thinking about what I wanted. And he's now working full-time in one of our local polytechnics, teaching law there. So, and he's a lot happier. He knows that's what he wanted. So to me, knowing what you want early on is important so that you can chart your career, chart your path, chart your progress, where you want to end up. I would say, in our system, in our Singaporean living, when we are young, everything is taken care of. Okay, so you go primary school, what's next? It's secondary school. You go secondary school, what's next? It's either IT, poly, university, something like that. There's always a chart that is, or a path that's already charted for you. But once you enter the workforce, then it's like an abyss.
You just let loose.
Boom. And you sink into the deep if you don't plan well. So to me, it's up to you. You need to do the planning. You need to think about where you want to be in the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, how you want to retire, what kind of assets you want to have. And this is not just about insurance or anything like that. It's about your whole lifestyle, where you want to end, what's important to you, whether it's religion, whether it's money, whether it's family. These are the things that you need to think about. And that's the best advice I can give to a young person.
I love that. But how do we you know, get our Muslim community to have that mindset, especially, you know, to plan 3 years, 5 years. You know, not everyone will have what you're thinking and stuff like that. But how do we you know, get this?
How do we get there?
Yeah, the community to, I don't know.
This is a tough question, man. I'm not the right person to ask. I think you need to ask maybe someone who's in politics
Maybe
or social development.
how do you develop this mindset? That you know what you want and you know that you're gonna have assets by this time and blah blah blah, like what you said just now. For you.
For me personally.
Yeah.
Okay. I think community-wise, one of the ways to handle this is to actually break molds, and maybe there are already steps being taken towards it. For example, I know of someone who's very successful, but when he finished primary school, he could only get into normal technical stream, and then from normal technical he worked hard, he got into normal academic, something like that, and then he went for O-levels in Sec 5, and then he made it to a polytechnic. From polytechnic, then he went to university. Now he's a graduate, he's earning good money. The other day, I was conducting scholarship interviews for one of the organizations that I volunteered at, and I met another person who also from secondary school went to IT to poly to university, and now he's taking I can't remember, a very good subject, and he looks like he's going to be able to do well. So I think for me, one of the keys for a community to change is to break molds, right? Some people, once they hit an ITE, they say, no, this is my life, this is what I'm supposed to do. If they go into poly, they say, this is my life, this is what I'm supposed to do. I think when I was growing up, I would hate the fact that many people say they want to only aim for a certain position or certain particular rank. For example, say we all did NS, right? Then when you go to NS, you have non-commissioned officers, people who are warrant officers and below, for example. Then you have commissioned officers, you have lieutenant, captain, major, and so on and so forth. To me, I would tell myself to aim right for the top.
Correct.
If I fall a couple of steps down. But if you only set your targets, okay, my life goal is to become a warrant officer, for example, and no disrespect to any warrant officers around, then why are you selling yourself short? Why don't you set it higher? Your capability, your caliber, your output may be that of a major or captain, but if you have this societal mold around your head to say that I'm only capable up to here, it's going to limit you. You're never going to break out of that. So to me, that is how you can change a community, and that's how you should change yourself.
Okay, very good. Who is your role model? Maybe share a few, and why?
Okay, to me, life it's important to lead it straight and narrow. Okay, but apart from straight and narrow, I really enjoy seeing very successful people. So if I were to say role model, say on a...
Wait, what do you mean by you enjoy seeing successful people?
Okay, I like to see people who really build themselves up.
Okay.
It motivates me. It makes me believe that the opportunities are there for you to seize. It makes me believe in a meritocratic system. It makes me believe that if you work hard enough, you will achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve. So I would say on an international basis, I like to follow people like Tony Fernandez, the guy who started Asia, right? That would be a dream of where I would want to end up. You see, a person who's at that level, CEO, the brilliance, how the company has grown. So that's one role model that I have. Another role model that I have is this particular TV show that I used to enjoy watching. It's called West Coast Customs, right? Now, West Coast Customs is a show about modifying cars, which is one of my personal passions. Everybody's got to have a hobby, So, and that show is great because in that particular show, the opening credits always talk about how the guy who hates it, and this is today a multinational company making millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, and it's extremely wealthy. I mean, they're all rolling in Rolls Royce and all this kind of top level gear and all that. And he started out with a $500 loan from his grandfather. $500 if I remember correctly. Right? So he is what I would say someone who is self-made. And being self-made is one of the things that will always motivate me. So if you say role models, for me, all my role models, people that I look up to and aspire to be and respect are people who are self-made. Now, I also have one guy who's actually a local guy, who to me also is a very good role model of mine. Now, this particular guy, he's a Muslim guy. He doesn't miss his prayers. Most of the time, whatever waktu he can, he'll be at the mosque. He lives in, I think, about 8,000 square foot property. It's a bungalow. It's in a prime district in Singapore. I think his house alone is worth probably about $8 to $12 million. That's his house, which has been paid for. He drives a nice Mercedes. He has multiple properties. He has, I think, at least 3 or 4 offices. He has a building in downtown, okay? And this is a man that nobody knows of. He is so humble, so low profile, that nobody would know of his wealth, okay? And because he's a personal friend of mine, I also know about his background. Now, he was a foreigner, okay? His father, where he was born, I won't say where he's born because I don't want anyone to try and look for this guy. But his father came from a third world country, but his father was extremely wealthy because at that point in time, back in the day, I think the 40s, 50s, his father had already established an international trade network. So his father had companies in Hong Kong, in India, in Pakistan, in Indonesia, in China. So there was already a trade network that the father had built up. And this particular individual, this friend of mine, in his hometown when he was young, he actually went to study law. And he wanted to be a lawyer. But after he graduated, his father told him, no, come and sit in the family business. So he told me when he was sitting in the family office back in his home country, on top of him was everyone else, with his father right at the top. He was the youngest of a family of maybe 3 or 4 brothers, so all his brothers were already up in the food chain. He was right at the bottom. So he told me, he said, if I'm staying here, I'm going to die. There's no future for me. Now, then he looked at his father's global network of companies and he saw Singapore. And Singapore was managed by 2 of his uncles. But Singapore was the most underperforming branch office they had, making losses. Okay, so he told his father, send me to Singapore. I want to take over the Singapore office. His father said, you sure, underperforming? He said, no, let me go there. I want to try and turn it around. So he went there. And of course, he initially met with a lot of inertia and resistance from his uncles, and they also eventually left. But he not only turned the business around, but he also made that business a multi-million-dollar business, right? And this probably took him the span of maybe 20 to 30 years. And he's now a Singaporean, he has a good family, happy and all that. But I think the thing that most inspires me about him now, I don't know how much you know about companies, right? But because this Singapore branch was a company that was started by his father, the entire shareholding of that company still belonged to his father. Okay. But he was the one who was responsible for turning it around, making it successful, making it worth millions. But when the time came, he told his father, can you sell me your shares? Can you sell me your shares? And the father said, okay. So they did an independent valuation of the company, and he paid his father every single cent. Which to me, I would say is ridiculous. If not for him, the company would not be successful. He made it successful, and yet he paid to buy it back from his father. But because of his honesty, I think that barakah from his honesty lasted for years. So like I said, today he has a multi-million-dollar property, fully paid for. He drives a beautiful car. He just took possession of a new car, I think last month. Beautiful S-Class, S500, fantastic, nice. Multiple officers paid for, business going on, paid for. So to me, living life on the straight and narrow, doing things properly, even when it's so painful, you still do things the right way. That barakah is fantastic. And a person like that, his humility, his humbleness is definitely going to be my role model. So people who are self-made and people who have just made the best right decisions in life.
How are you friends with him?
We volunteer in similar circles.
Oh, okay. So through volunteering.
Yeah.
Okay. I always ask to all of my interviewee this question is that since you have a firm and you are the boss and the leader of this firm, what's your definition of a great leader?
For great leader, there's many definitions, okay? But
I want yours.
but okay, for me personally, a great leader must be one who leads not by command but by example. For me, I mean right now it's 8 p.m. Some of my staff are here, I can see it on the CCTV, but I'm here as well. Whatever I demand from people who are under me, I demand the same from myself. If I cannot deliver, I can expect them to deliver. So to me, leading by example, going down into the field, being together with your people, going into battle, so to speak, together with your people, that is what a great leader is. And it's not just about, for me, of course, in the context of legal fights and all that, it's like a battle. But in whatever business you do, you have to be there. You have to be with your employees. You have to be through the thick and thin. Because if you're not, all you can do is just give orders, tell this, that, dictate. It's not going to work. It's not going to happen. No one will have the passion, the energy and the drive that you have. So you need to be on the ground because your firm, your company, your employees need to soak up that energy, that passion that you have. Then you can move together, and that's what a great leader is to me.
Okay, mashallah, very good. Okay, so we come to the end. Any last parting words which you would like to say?
Okay, parting words, and because your platform is religious based, I will also have to add to the last. The greatest leader that we all know is our Prophet ﷺ. So whatever I say, everything that I've shared is just based on my personal experiences, which pale in comparison to everything that we learn in our religion. So you want to lead a great life, you want to be a great person, follow the Quran, follow the Sunnah, follow the Hadith, lead your life in the proper way, integrate with our society, do things properly in Singapore, understand your religion through and through, and I think you will definitely be successful.
Mashallah. Thank you so much. Thank you
No
so
problem.
much for this interview.
No problem.
May Allah reward you.
I mean, inshallah.